Welcome to Tech Week in Review with Adam and Eve. This is your deep dive, looking at the biggest tech stories hitting TechFyle this week.
That's right. We're digging into the news that really matters, the stuff with broad impact.
Exactly. Not just gadgets, but the developments affecting how we live, how we work. We try to give you the good, the bad, the whole picture.
And this week, there's quite a mix. Security, manufacturing, space.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
Yeah, definitely. So let's jump right in. First up, some pretty serious news on the national security front.
The signal breach.
Yeah, exactly. A private Signal group chat, the encrypted messaging app, used by senior Pentagon folks, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, it got breached.
And this wasn't just casual chat, right? We're talking sensitive military discussions.
Seriously sensitive. Strategies, personnel stuff, operations, weapons supply chains, even strike plans and Hegseth's schedule.
Wow, that's significant. And the fallout.
Well, 4 senior Pentagon officials have already resigned. That alone tells you how big a deal this is.
It really does. It raises huge questions about using, commercial encrypted apps for top-level government comms. Is Signal, or anything like it, truly secure enough?
Good question. The resignation suggests maybe not, or at least a massive protocol failure.
Definitely a breakdown somewhere.
Yeah.
For that kind of classified information, you'd expect maybe bespoke government-built systems, not just something you download from an app store.
And it gets messier. Turns out Hegseth's wife and brother were apparently in these chats too.
Seriously, non-government individuals.
Yep. Which adds a whole other layer of security risk, potential protocol violations.
Yeah, that's a major lapse. It just highlights the need for crystal clear policies and, crucially, strict enforcement. Technology is one thing, but the human element.
Always the weakest link, right?
Often, yeah. This whole thing is probably going to force a major rethink of communication tools and oversight at the Pentagon. They'll be investigating this for a while, I bet.
No doubt. Okay, let's pivot. Another story with potentially massive global ripple effects. Apple.
The India production news.
That's the one. Reports are saying Apple is seriously considering moving all iPhone production to India by 2026.
Which would be a monumental shift, moving away from that deep reliance on China.
So what's the thinking there? Just diversifying away from China because of trade tensions and, geopolitics.
That's a huge part of it, definitely. Reducing dependence on China offers more stability long-term, given the current climate. But India is also actively courting this kind of business.
How so?
Favorable government policies, incentives for manufacturing, plus India itself has a lot to offer.
Like what? Huge population, obviously.
A huge population, yes, which means a massive potential market and a growing skilled labor force. Plus, their own tech ecosystem is really starting to emerge.
So benefits for Apple would be tapping into that Indian market, boosting sales there, maybe getting a stronger foothold in Asia overall.
Exactly, and balancing global trade risks. For India, landing all of iPhone production, that would be transformative. A huge boost for their economy, job creation, cementing them as a major global manufacturing hub, maybe even lower costs for Apple eventually.
But it can't be that simple, surely. Moving an operation that massive, what are the hurdles?
Oh, absolutely. Infrastructure is the big one. China's manufacturing infrastructure is incredibly developed. India's is growing fast, but can it handle Apple's scale and efficiency demands right now?
Good point. They'd need massive investment in new facilities, logistics.
And navigating India's own regulations and economic landscape could be tricky. Apple's decision will probably come down to whether they believe India can meet their super high standards for quality and efficiency consistently. It's a calculated risk.
Okay, sticking with Apple for a moment. Product updates. We're expecting a new Mac Studio aimed at pros needing power.
Right, the high-performance desktop.
And an updated iPad Air, that balance of performance and portability. But the thing people seem really excited about is Apple Intelligence.
Yes, the AI push. Especially the revamped Siri, meant to be much more personalized and context-aware.
What's the latest on the timing for that? I heard maybe iOS 18.4?
That was the early buzz, yeah.
Yeah.
But now it sounds like it's been pushed back. Likely to iOS 19, which probably means a 2026 release.
So a bit of a wait. Suggests they want to get it really right, maybe.
You'd assume so. AI integration is tricky. Expectations are high.
Yeah.
They probably want to avoid, releasing something half-baked.
Makes sense. And speaking of Apple designs, there's been chatter, even leaked videos about the iPhone 17 Air Super thin.
Like really thin, around 5.65 millimeters based on those dummy models shown by Unbox Therapy.
Wow, that's wafer thin. Cool from an innovation standpoint, I guess.
It definitely pushes the design envelope, which Apple loves to do, but
But how fragile would it be? That's the immediate thought, right?
exactly. The durability question looms large. It's that classic balancing act, sleek design versus real-world practicality. We'll see how they handle that.
Okay, let's shift from earthbound tech to, well, just off Earth. Blue Origin.
Ah, the all-female crew mission. That was pretty historic.
It really felt like it. Their New Shepard rocket took an all-female crew to space. First time, right?
First time for a mission like this, yeah. 6 women, including some really high-profile names.
Like Katy Perry, Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez.
Right, alongside experts like Amanda Nguyen, Aisha Bowe, and Carrie-Anne Flynn. A really diverse group.
So what's the big significance here beyond the first?
It's a powerful statement about inclusivity and diversification in space, especially in the commercial space tourism sector. It shows space isn't just for one type of person. They went just over the Kármán line, about 62 miles up.
That boundary of space, even for a short 11-minute trip.
It clearly meant a lot. You heard Katy Perry took her daughter's Daisy.
I did see that. A nice touch.
And Gayle King talked about how empowering it was, hoping to inspire the next generation, especially young girls. It genuinely helps redefine who we think of as an astronaut. It's shifting the demographics.
Cool. Okay, back down to Earth, but still talking about potentially game-changing tech. Batteries. CATL.
Oh yeah, the big Chinese battery maker, they unveiled some wild stuff. A battery with a claimed range of 932 miles.
932. That sounds almost unbelievable for an EV.
It's their Freevoy dual-power battery. Apparently, it uses a clever dual-zone design, one part for daily driving, another for long trips. And it mixes battery chemistries.
Different types in one battery?
Yeah, NCM and LFP combined with some new anode tech they developed. They claim it boosts energy density by like 60%, if that holds up.
That could basically eliminate range anxiety, right? And power those advanced self-driving systems.
Potentially, yeah. Reliable long-range power is crucial for level 3, level 4 autonomy.
And wasn't that the only thing they announced?
No, they also showed off their second-gen Shaanxi battery, almost 500 miles range, and it can supposedly add over 300 miles in just 5 minutes charge time.
5 minutes? But you'd need special chargers, I assume.
Definitely. Specialized infrastructure, and maybe even more significant long-term, their Naxtra battery. It's a mass-produced sodium-ion battery.
Sodium-ion, not lithium.
Right. Potentially higher density, longer life, lower cost, and crucially, less reliant on lithium, which has its own supply chain issues.
So lots of promise, but the usual questions remain.
Cost and availability. When will we actually see these in cars? How much will they add to the price? And can U.S. consumers even get them easily with current tariffs? Lots of unknowns still.
True. Okay, now for something a bit different. Humanoid robots running a half marathon in China.
Yeah, saw that. Definitely unusual. They weren't breaking any speed records, obviously.
How fast were they?
The fastest one, Sky Project Ultra, did the 21.1 kilometers in about 2 hours, 40 minutes.
Huh.
So way slower than top human runner.
Was that they finished?
Most did, yeah. Apparently there were some challenges, robots falling, bumping into each other. But the fact they could complete an endurance event like that.
It shows progress, right? Beyond just factory work.
Exactly. It demonstrates advancements in robotics, AI, mobility, endurance, things you need for more complex tasks, maybe in logistics, healthcare, who knows? It's a glimpse of potential.
Speaking of AI and unexpected places, this Cluely tool.
Ah, yeah, the AI assistant for interviews, sales calls, even exams. Developed by some former Columbia students.
How does it work again? It listens in and gives you answers in real time.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Listens to the audio, analyzes your screen, and pops up AI-generated responses in a hidden window for you to use.
It's free now with a paid pro version.
Yep. Free tier, then $20 a month or $100 a year for more advanced models. And they've raised over $5 million in funding.
Despite the founders apparently getting suspended previously for using something similar to cheat.
That's the report, yeah. Which obviously fuels the ethical debate.
Is it a productivity tool or is it cheating? Especially in exams or interviews.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really challenges traditional ideas about fairness, transparency. Where do you draw the line? The findings suggest there's definitely interest, ethical questions aside.
Definitely one to watch. Now, on a more serious note, a warning from the FBI.
About scammers impersonating agents.
Exactly, and they're targeting people who've already been victims of financial fraud.
Ugh, that's low. Preying on people who are already vulnerable.
Right. They call, email, use social media, claiming to be from the FBI's IC3, the Internet Crime Complaints Center, sometimes mentioning a fake agent name, Jeannie Quinn.
And the scam is
They promise to help recover the victim's lost funds, but you have to pay an upfront fee first into some bogus trust app.
classic recovery scam tactic.
Totally. The FBI is making it crystal clear. The IC3 will never contact victims like this, never demand money for help, so if you get a call like that.
Hang up. It's a scam. Good warning to get out there.
Definitely. Okay, shifting back to cars, specifically self-driving ones. Sounds like some federal regulations are being eased in the U.S.
Yeah, a relaxation of certain rules. It seems the NHTSA and the Department of Transportation are giving companies a bit more leeway for real-world testing.
Like for Tesla Cybercabs, maybe.
Could help things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is to speed up data collection, accelerate development, spur innovation. More real-world miles means better AI training.
Makes sense. But does it raise other questions? Public reaction, safety?
Absolutely. More testing on public roads always brings up safety concerns, public acceptance issues, plus the longer-term stuff like potential job displacement in transport, cybersecurity, data privacy. Those discussions continue. Easing regulations might speed things up, but those underlying issues don't just disappear.
Right. Okay, Microsoft. Their recall feature, it's officially out now.
Yes, it's officially rolling out for Windows 11 Copilot Plus users. It was delayed for a bit, remember?
Because of the privacy backlash, yeah. Remind us what it does again.
It basically takes periodic screenshots of your activity, what you're doing on your PC, to create a searchable timeline. The idea is to help you find stuff you were working on before, like a lost file or website.
But the worry was it sounded like spyware, capturing everything.
Exactly. Huge privacy and security alarms went off. Concerns about hackers getting access, malware exploiting it, even government surveillance.
So what did Microsoft do to address that before releasing it?
They implemented several safeguards. It's now opt-in, not on by default. You can uninstall it. It requires biometric login via Windows. Hello. The data is encrypted and stored locally on your PC.
Not in the cloud.
Supposedly stays local, protected by the PC's DPM security chip. That chip is like a hardware vault for keys and sensitive data.
Okay, so some protections. But are critics satisfied?
Not entirely. Security researcher Kevin Beaumont, for instance, still raised flags. Pointed out sensitive data like passwords could still potentially be captured before being obscured, and maybe ways to bypass the biometric checks.
So ongoing concerns.
Yeah. Microsoft says they're using filters to block sensitive stuff from being captured and will keep updating those. But users really need to weigh the convenience against those potential risks. It's rolling out gradually, starting with an update preview around April 2025.
Got it. Okay, let's talk Elon Musk again. Sounds like he's stepping back a bit from his DOGE government efficiency project.
Yeah, seems he's refocusing more heavily on Tesla.
Why the shift?
Primarily seems driven by Tesla's recent financials. Q1 2025 saw a pretty steep drop in profit, like 70% down. Net income dropped 71%. Deliveries were down too compared to the previous quarter.
Ouch. So still profitable, but the growth stalled significantly.
Exactly. So Musk appears to be strategically doubling down on Tesla's core business, talking about ramping up production of more affordable EVs.
The cheaper model, like $30,000 range.
That seems to be the target, yeah. Maybe unveiled mid-2025. And pushing hard on the robotaxi project, testing supposedly starting in Austin soon, then expanding later this year.
So less time for side projects like DOGE, more focus on boosting Tesla's bottom line and future tech? Makes business sense, I suppose?
Seems like a necessary move given the numbers and the increasing EV competition.
Now, this next one is kind of amusing, but also interesting. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman.
Saying please and thank you costs them millions.
Yeah, apparently when users are polite to ChatGPT saying please and thank you, it actually uses more processing power.
How does that work? Longer prompts?
Seems like it. Those extra words mean more tokens to process, which means more computation, more energy used, adding up to tens of millions of dollars across all users.
Wow. Altman seemed kind of okay with it, though.
Yeah, his response on X was basically tens of millions well spent, you never know. Maybe keep the AI happy. But it's wild that simple politeness has a tangible, multi-million-dollar cost.
It is. And apparently a survey found most U.S. AI users are polite to AI, out of habit, precaution, or just thinking it's right.
It really highlights the energy demands of these AI models, doesn't it? Every little bit adds up, and how we're kind of anthropomorphizing them already.
Yeah, applying human social norms to machines. It's fascinating. And costly, apparently.
Okay, broadening the AI lens a bit. Its growing role in surveillance, deliveries, warfare. Big opportunities, but also big concerns,
It's
right?
huge on both sides. AI can definitely enhance things like public safety through facial recognition or behavioral analysis.
But the privacy implications are massive. Mass surveillance data misuse.
Exactly. And in deliveries, autonomous vehicles and drones promise speed and efficiency.
But the systems need to be secure. Vulnerable delivery drones are a problem.
Right. And then warfare. AI-enabled drones for reconnaissance, strikes, maybe even fully autonomous weapons.
That's the really scary one. AI making life or death decisions without a human in the loop. The ethical questions are profound.
Deeply profound. That's why there's such a growing call globally for stricter regulations, strong cybersecurity, and clear ethical frameworks to guide AI in these critical areas. We need guardrails.
Absolutely. And speaking of ethical considerations and technology, the late Pope Francis had some thoughts on this too.
Yes, his reflections on tech, AI, social media, they carried a lot of weight. He often warned about the downsides.
Like deepfake spreading misinformation.
Definitely. And the negative impact of too much screen time, especially on young people, leading to loneliness, disconnection. He also voiced serious concerns about AI in the military, particularly autonomous weapons.
Did the Vatican issue any specific guidance?
Yeah, back in 2023, they released a document stressing ethical guidelines for AI development. The core message was that AI must serve humanity, enhance human capabilities, not replace human connection or judgment, especially in sensitive areas like healthcare.
And a call for regulation.
A strong call for global leaders to regulate AI for the common good, always prioritizing human dignity and ensuring equitable access and outcomes.
Important perspectives. Okay, let's jump back to space, but this time it's about connectivity. SpaceX versus AST Space Mobile.
Right, the competition to beam internet or cellular service down from satellites directly to phones.
SpaceX has Starlink, partnering with T-Mobile. AST Space Mobile has their Bluebird satellites aiming to do something similar for carriers, but AST is hitting roadblocks.
Yeah, regulatory hurdles with the FCC, specifically for their next larger satellite, the FM1. SpaceX has raised objections.
On what grounds?
Concerns about orbital debris, collision risks because of the satellite size and design. That slowed down FCC approval for AST.
But isn't there some pushback on that? I saw FCC Chairman Brendan Carr weighed in.
He did. He voiced support for AST Space Mobile, framing it partly in terms of national security and competing with China's ambitions in space-based communications, kind of positioning it as strategically important for the U.S. to have multiple players.
So it's a tech race, a regulatory battle, and a geopolitical issue all rolled into one.
Pretty much. And AST Space Mobile is under pressure. They need to launch enough satellites fairly quickly to offer continuous coverage in the U.S., while SpaceX is already actively rolling out its service. It's a tight race.
Okay, another potential shakeup. Google Chrome. Could it actually be sold?
That was a surprising report. Following antitrust scrutiny from the Department of Justice, there's apparently interest from several companies in potentially acquiring the Chrome browser if Google were forced to divest.
Who's interested?
Perplexity, the AI search engine company, Yahoo, and even OpenAI.
Wow. And Google's take?
Strongly opposed, as you'd expect. They argue it would harm Chrome and the underlying open-source Chromium platform that many other browsers rely on.
What are the potential buyers saying? Perplexity thinks they could run it without charging users or degrading it.
That's their claim. Yahoo sees it as strategically vital for their own web and search ambitions. And OpenAI, well, acquiring Chrome would certainly boost their own search efforts, like SearchGPT.
But Google's warning about security risks and destabilizing the whole ecosystem if it changes hands.
Yeah, their legal team is pushing back hard on those grounds. It seems unlikely Google would willingly sell, but the DOJ pressure creates this unexpected scenario.
Fascinating. Okay, let's hop across the pond. The EU hitting Apple and Meta with big fines.
Yeah, around $800 million in antitrust fines combined. Alleged violations of EU competition rules.
$800 million sounds like a lot, but for Apple and Meta, is it really that significant financially?
Probably not crippling, no. It's more symbolic. It represents the ongoing tension between EU regulators trying to rein in big tech and these giant American companies.
How are the companies reacting?
Positioning it as the EU targeting American companies. Meta, for instance, pointed out that Chinese and even European companies often seem to face different standards.
And where does someone like former President Trump fit into this? His stance has generally been protective of U.S. companies, right?
Historically, yes. So you could potentially see an alignment there. Trump, Apple, Meta pushing back against what they see as unfair EU regulatory pressure. It has a political dimension.
And Apple and Meta are appealing these fines, presumably?
Oh, definitely. They'll fight these rulings. This isn't over yet.
And sticking with Trump-related policies for a moment, the tariffs, they're still having an impact, aren't they?
Absolutely. The effects are ongoing across various sectors. Plus, there's continued legal backlash, lawsuits challenging these trade policies.
Any specific examples of the impact?
Well, reports suggest Nintendo faced higher production costs for the Switch, and maybe the upcoming Switch 2, because of tariffs, which contributed to slower sales, stock issues, even scalping problems.
And Intel.
Intel also reportedly faced layoffs, partly attributed to higher costs and supply chain disruptions linked to the tariffs. So, real-world consequences for major companies.
And beyond tariffs, there's also increased scrutiny on agencies like the FTC, right? Especially under Trump's appointees.
Yes, there's been debate about antitrust enforcement. Concerns were raised about dismissed commissioners and potentially a more, let's say, challenging regulatory environment for companies like Meta and Amazon, depending on the political winds. It's complex.
Wow. Okay, that covers a huge amount of ground. A really packed week in tech news, all pulled from TechFile.
It really was. From national security leaks and global manufacturing shifts to AI everywhere. Politeness costing millions, running marathons, helping with interviews, powering weapons, plus space races and regulatory battles.
It really shows how interconnected everything is, doesn't it? These aren't isolated stories. They ripple out and affect so many different parts of our lives, our economy, even global politics.
Absolutely. The pace of change is just relentless.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Considering everything we've discussed today, all the rapid changes, the ethical questions, the global forces, what's the one tech trend you think will have the most significant long-term impact on society?
That's a tough one. Lots to choose from this week.
Definitely something to chew on. We encourage you to keep digging into these topics, form your own opinions. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us this week on Tech Week in Review with Natalie.
Tech Week in Review is hosted by Adam Carter and Eve Harrison. Music by Federico Luyo, Jamie Wright, and Alex Grohl. Sound mixing and editing by Nigel Dixon-File. Tech Week in Review is produced by CTF Initiative in conjunction with TechFyle. If you are interested in more news, reviews, and articles, visit techfile.com and follow us on social media. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. Thanks for your support. Keep following TF and TWR for the latest in tech changing your world.